terrible.
Like, you're depressed. Everyone is.
You go to them for like condoms, you go to them for like...
Fill out the questionnaire, but I'm already writing your prescription, son. And it was...
Hi, I'm Steve, and I went to Brasenose College, Oxford, and I read philosophy, politics, and economics. With Joe, right here.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe. And I also read philosophy, politics, and economics at Brasenose.
Hi, I'm Yoon. History and politics at Teddy Hall.
Terrible. Absolutely horrid.
Everyone jokes about it. Like, you're depressed. Everyone is. Oh, this is the price we pay for academic rigor.
The English complaint, you go to America and people tell you their life story at the checkout.
Yeah.
And it's true that when you come to England, no one wants to hear your life story ever. And that makes socializing for the first time very, very hard.
At my college right now, they hired a new welfare officer, and they suggested reaching out to her if I was like struggling with the term after a long time away. But I ended up not, and then there wasn't really much follow-up about that. I guess in part that's my fault for not. But especially people that are struggling and don't even have the motivation or the energy to go out to those kinds of appointments or to make time in the schedule for those appointments, there's not a real sense of urgency.
I think I was really full of myself when I first went to Oxford.
Why
Because
are you using past tense?
I felt really proud about the fact that like I was the first person from my school to go to Oxford and that like I'd prepared for the whole process on my own. I get there. I realized that like working on things wasn't like the main thing that was difficult. It was just having a sense of belonging in a country where you don't have friends or family to turn to. And I think that made me really depressed and made me want to quit in first year actually.
My sort of lowest point mental health-wise was definitely between the sort of exam period at the end of first year and then sort of Christmas of second year. And I remember very distinctly walking into the upper radcam and having, I think panic attack is probably too strong, but definitely like a very physical reaction to the combination of like stress from exams and social displacement. I was in quite a difficult relationship. I didn't really feel like I had a friendship group that was super easy to connect to. Or rather, I was too shy and had like 1,000 unread Facebook messages. And you know when you're in that rut where you don't want to open the Facebook messages because you have to read them all.
Yeah. Towards the end of Trinity, I think something really nice happened where I started talking to Benedict about a lot of philosophy.
I was very lucky in that I had some very lovely human beings as my tutors throughout. That I have gone with crazy stuff to, well beyond their remit, and they have made me a cup of tea and listened, which is phenomenal. There are other tutors that I know and that I know of that I would not touch with a barge pole because they are mental.
Yeah.
Very good at what they do, but not particularly good at sitting in this awkward niche between academia and personal.
Dave was like, Dave, we love you. The line between academic responsibilities for tutors and pastoral responsibilities for tutors is very like blurry. So some tutors will really go out of their way and take care of students, and you know they'll check in like every week. They're just like, you know, has anything happened?
It's what they want to do as well.
Yeah, exactly. When that pastoral care from tutors works, it works so well. Like the tutors are like, it's so personalized. Like, you know, you can have a chat and complain to them about everything in your life, and they'll listen to you, and
they understand.
Yeah, and they understand
the 80% of your life that is your work.
Yeah.
Friends reaching out and saying, you know, for all of the toxicity of social media, it does give you a way to like take a measure of people, I think, and having someone text me and say, I haven't seen you in a very active group chat where there is space for you, nudge me to spend a morning reading 1,000 Facebook messages, and that was probably better for me than doing the other thing that you do in summers of somebody who's convinced themselves that their academic performance is the most important thing, which is furiously reading books that in hindsight I had no reason to read. I read Nietzsche, Aristotle, some other stupid philosophers that no one actually needs to read. You know, if I had like gone to the pub, I would be no academically worse off, and I would have been far less depressed.
Children who are starting university, don't read the original stuff. Read the secondary literature on that stuff. You don't actually have to read that in order to do well.
I thought that the system at the college that I was at was actually really good. There was one very serious incident where somebody had attempted suicide, and the welfare team were very professional, and I thought they handled the situation very well. They were also good at setting boundaries. The rules are in place. They said, no, you can't do that. There are limits to how much time you can take off. Like, if you need to take off this much time, you need a year off, you need to reset. So I thought the balance was generally quite good, and I think that having such a small like microcosm of an environment means that it's hard to go unseen.
The main problem with mental health is that we let people get to the crisis point, and I think Oxford colleges are incredible at dealing with crises, but for all of the steps beforehand there was very little in the way of support. And it's a really difficult problem because it's, you know, it's easy to say like you need to give people better mental health care, but like what does that even mean? If you need medical attention for your mental health, that just means that like some things in your life have gone pretty badly, and those things obviously like the college can't touch, right? Like they can't just be like, let me intervene in every single decision you make and like tell your parents that they're terrible parents. Like they can't do that.
I think some of it is just structural issue, right? Because if you consider the workload amongst all courses, it's like 8-week terms, 3 of them, and like 40 days break in between. Even those 40 days, a lot of time you're expected to do work, especially in your second or third years when you have things like dissertations or theses coming up or finals coming up. They're not really vacations, it's kind of non-stop. But because actual term time is 8 weeks, a lot of work gets crammed to those 8 weeks. And that's not something you can really easily change unless you change the whole...
People come to college not as these blank slates. They come as people at the end of the bell curve, already stressed to hell, and then they get pushed through the end of the bell curve even further. And Oxford's a little bit of culpability there, but it's not so obvious to me that colleges do have a proactive responsibility, you might say.
So one of the things that I like found really almost distressing about the JCR is that like they just had elections for welfare officers. And then they were just like, you can go to these people because these are trusted individuals. When I don't know anything about these people, why would I want to share my problems with these people? I feel like they need to come up with ways to make friend groups like more attentive.
But a lot of these people might not have those friends or people to turn to in a support network. You know, if you don't have friends, it's not like the college can prescribe you friends or anything.
And colleges do try hard.
Yeah.
Like every college in Oxford and similar places pours, by most standards, thousands of pounds of like free socializing, food, booze, event spaces, JCRT.
Like there's this whole concept at Oxford called 5th week blues because it's an 8-week term. To address this, they have a bunch of cute activities like, oh, we have fucking waffles, or like there's tea in the JCR. It's not really a serious or tangible approach to solving this problem, I think.
How many welfare fairies did we have? If you want free beer, free cookies, free contraceptives of any variety, toasties, brownies, there were like subsidized services for all this stuff delivered to you.
I bet every single one of you can name a person you know or someone who got called in the middle of the night to help deal with a friend or a peer who's going through a mental health thing or crisis, or like, oh, sorry, I gotta leave, my friend's going through something right now, I gotta check. Like, everyone's gone through something like this. It's not that we need to expand the range of duties or responsibility the colleges have. It's that if it is a medical issue or something that the colleges say they provide professionals to help with because they view it as an issue that it should be helped by professionals, how come students aren't using these services or turning to them or don't find them appealing?
oftentimes people don't turn to mental health professionals because they feel ashamed about the source of their mental health problems, which is like very much a different set of problems than just, you know, like, oh, I think being mentally ill is weak. If you're alone and you're an international student and you feel like you feel out of place, right? Like, you going to a mental health professional and talking to them about the fact that you feel like I cannot function as a normal human, and that's so filled with shame. Like, you can't. Yeah, it's so difficult to like.
Ontological.
Yeah, it's so difficult to convince people to come forward with those problems because that's about a person's self-conception.
Unfortunately, a lot of people, I think, me included, I'm sure everyone here either has had it or knows someone has had it, has had a terrible experience with someone in these institutional settings, of someone being rubbish, of someone being underqualified for the job. Colleges are not so good at understanding when they need the different levels of stuff. So I think that oftentimes, fine, you can go and talk to your welfare rep, your chaplain, the dean, whoever, but you feel like this is somebody that's done like a half-day training course in how to spot somebody who's about to kill themselves, and that's about all they know, and they've got a couple of stories. Why would I go to that person? You know, they don't know me.
Officers are students, right?
This is part of the madness. It's both the madness and the beauty. There's no system.
It's like class president. You just pick a dude who comes up.
They're literally the nicest human beings, and they get picked for like welfare officer, and then you go to them for like condoms. You go to them, and they're like very nice people, but you know nothing, next to nothing about them, and they've got. I think, I'm not sure what the training looks like, but
yeah, they're not the kind of people you go up to and be like, I've been thinking about death lately. Like,
unfortunately, it's so hard to extricate people in that position from the friendship groups that they're in. If the welfare rep is 2 years older than you and they're in the cool group and you don't feel cool, the idea that you would go to them and tell them that you're feeling really sad is a million miles away. And it's not, again, I wouldn't want any welfare rep to feel that was an attack on them, because it's not, it's just the system.
For sure.
The other thing I think is mad about the system, and this is a bit particular to Oxford and Cambridge maybe, is that because it's all done in these colleges, every college will have its own setup. Like, some colleges will have one welfare rep for each heterobiological sex, and that's it. Or then maybe someone official from college. Other colleges will have 2 welfare reps for each biological sex, 2 non-heteronormative welfare reps, and then there'll be a barrage of professional, religious, non-religious professionals in college, all with no clear hierarchy. That's lovely sometimes because colleges can pick exactly what they want, but sometimes colleges are not good at picking what they want.
Yeah, it's like the thing you said about levels, right? There's a difference between someone who is just feeling a little overwhelmed with work and someone who's like, oh, I really feel like killing myself tomorrow. And then which one do you go to? You know, do you go to the chaplain? Do you go to the welfare officer? Do you go to the college nurse? Do you talk to your friends? Most of it's free. I think that's one good thing about it.
I mean, the NHS is
better than the US, at least.
I mean, it's better than the US, but like the NHS is not particularly good with mental health care, and if you want to not wait for 18 months, you need to turn to private options, and I feel a lot of students don't have access to that.
I'd say 2 things. One is that the NHS is amazing at the very basic level of, if you need someone to do like a depression questionnaire and give you antidepressants today, you can get that today, and it's basically free. Fill out the questionnaire, but I'm already writing your prescription, son. And it was just, you know, no, it's fine, go, come back to me in 2 weeks and we'll talk about your dosage. But for the therapy part of it, it's a complete Wild West. And I think something that the English system is really bad at is that even people who are well off enough that they would have good private healthcare in America, don't have private healthcare because there's a social taboo and because most of the NHS is great. So you don't have private healthcare, you look for a therapist, and you don't know what the difference in a therapist, a counsellor, a psychotherapist, and a psychiatrist is. So you go on some online forum, which is what I did. You pick one, you ask your parents for the money for a few sessions, and they say yes, of course, which I'm very lucky to get. And then you don't know how to evaluate it, and it's not connected to your NHS programs, your GP and your therapist don't talk to each other, and then you go back to university and you don't see them. So it's kind of like this dark market, and the NHS therapy, good luck, you know, and it's a well-reported problem that is non-existent.
I think over-medicalization of mental health is problematic. If you have depression, it's like getting a cold. Get some help. And it's just like, well, it is kind of like getting a cold, but you've just disregarded all of the social aspects that are causing this person's depression. And to that extent, I feel like people end up over-diagnosing themselves without like turning to like more like non-medical solutions to their problems.
Is a kind of moral hazard where people go, okay, mental health is like getting a cold, so if I get a mental health problem, I'll just take some medicine for it. So I don't have to worry about it. Like, my concern for mental health is like the Victorians' concern for TB, like it doesn't exist anymore, it's been cured. And that couldn't be further from the way to think about it. The other thing I would say as a parting message, in case anyone is watching this going, oh, I don't want to go to university because I'll get depressed, is that that's definitely not the case.
Yeah.
Partly because, in a kind of grim way, you were always going to be, if you're already a high-performing student, like, if you're at this end of the bell curve, you're already quite a stressed, over-curious, over-ruminating person, and there are going to be challenges. But there's no better time to go and embrace that challenge because the support is getting better.
Yeah, and you meet amazing friends all along the way.
Make sure you see the sun every day.